Contract interest rate. Okay. Now, what you can infer from this is that with every interest rate, you're going to get a new table. This happens to be the table for 11.5%. But when you get back to your offices, because it's increased, just went up to 15%, right? You can just get the new tables and plug them in your book, all right? Because the method doesn't change, the numbers do. Now, what it shows, if you look on page 98, under Plan 3, Year 1, what is that number, Bob, that you see?
That must be a factor.
Yeah, what is it?
7.5960.
Everybody on the same wavelength for Plan 3? That is the factor, okay? That is the factor here that we would multiply by the loan amount to get P&I, isn't it? Look at the factor all the way at the bottom of the page in Plan 3. It says 1072.8307. Right under that, write in big letters, GPM factor. GPM in big letters. You will come back to that factor. You'll notice in Plan 2 it says 1042.7873 right next to it. And they change for each plan. Turn to the next page, which is 99, and you simply will see the same factors except for the half point. You know that half point 416 trick? Well, with the 245, it changes for every year and every plan. So here are the factors. For example, in year 1, Plan 3, it would be 0.4214. All right, now let's flip back to page 82.
So every year you have to figure it out.
For the MIP, yes. Okay, now, if you flip back to 82 at step 4 at the bottom of the page, it says we're going to have to make 2 calculations. Turn to the top of 83, and you might want to put a double hook arrow between A and B at the top of the page. A says, work it out as a 203, doesn't it? B is something you've never seen before. Now, I'm teaching you this for a reason. There are a lot of mortgage books around, okay, that have all these answers. But the books usually are in multiples of $100, not 50, like they should be. Second off, a lot of these books do not give you the yearly increases. They do not give you the maximum principal increase. And the worst thing is, a lot of them just give you a total payment. They do not break down your P&I from your MIP, which, as you know, in the long and foster contract, you should, ethically too, you should put in the P&I payment and then plus the half point PMI and put that in parentheses. Okay, that's the proper way to do it. The other reason I teach this is so you can intelligently discuss it with your prospects. Okay, it's just good business, period. All right, B you've never seen before. It says, take acquisition cost, okay, times 97%, then divide by this huge monster figure. See, it says divide by GPM factor, and we'll see an example in a little bit. And round down to the next multiple of 50. Once we've done A and B, do we take the higher or the lower one, Ann?
Lower.
Take the lower one. Why? Because it says so. All right, now, let's do an example. It says here, example, problem 1, variation 1. Well, what is variation 1? You've never seen that. That simply means, in parentheses, determine the minimum possible down payment using Plan 2. I lost my head one day. I don't know why I did Plan 2 instead of Plan 3, but they all work out the same. Okay, the first thing we have to do is what, Terry? Always have to do?
Find out what your acquisition
cost. In this case, we have a $65,000 sales price. If you were to look up the allowable closing cost figure, it would come to $1,550. Acquisition cost becomes $66,550. Anybody have any problems with that? Then it said in step A, it said work it out as a 203. So we would take 97%, 25,000. We would take 95% of the remainder. What is the remainder, Ann? The difference between?
Acquisition cost.
And 25,000, right? Add them up. We round up or down? Down, okay. And then we do B. B says take 97% of acquisition. We do that. We then divide it by this huge figure. In this case, it's 1042, which was Plan 2's figure, GPM factor. If you looked on page 98, you would see it. In fact, you all might want to turn to it. See where that factor came from. This factor is used in 2 different ways. We will show you the other way in a minute. Does everybody see it? Everybody find it for Plan 2? All right. Plan 3 is the 1076, right?
1072.
1072. Okay. All right. Now anyway, we work that out and we round down. We get 61.9, don't we? Okay, we're going to take the higher or the lower, Grace?
Lower.
We're going to take the lower, okay? Now it becomes 61.9. Now that's our maximum loan amount, isn't it? Now, once we have done that, we simply, to get the, okay, if you look up here, to get the P&I factor, we simply multiply the maximum loan amount times the P&I factor, okay, which changes for each year, doesn't it? And we get the P&I payment. Okay, it's really not that hard. To get the insurance, we just take it by the insurance factor. Any problem with that? And then you simply repeat these steps, you know, for each year that we're talking about. Okay. Now, there is one other thing that I told you, that this GPM factor is used for one other calculation. What if I were to ask you, Terry, well, you told me the loan amount is 61.9, but you also told me that the payments I make not only don't make the principal payment, but they don't cover all the interest. What is the maximum, which your prospects are going to ask you now, what is the maximum amount that principal amount will increase to? Now we have the second use of the GPM factor. We simply take the original loan amount, which was 61.9, wasn't it, times the factor. Remember how earlier we used it, we divided by that big factor? Now we just multiply it. So, in this case, it's all in your book here, you would see that it's 61.9 times 1042.7873, and it comes to $64,548. That is the maximum amount that loan will increase to. In this case, I believe it's in the 5th year. Okay? So the 61.9 went up to 64.5, didn't it? That's a pretty big increase. What does that got to tell you? If you have a two-story slab you sell in Dirt City, okay, and maybe at the end of 5 years the people have to sell it and pay a 6% sales commission, you could conceivably have a problem where people are actually paying out more than they have to pay out. So now, the probability of that happening is remote, but it is a type of plan that you do have to be a little bit careful with, though. I think you'd all agree with that. Okay, any questions at all so far, what we're doing?
On the chart before, you had figure 66, and then you had minus the 64, and then you had the factor underneath it. Why did you minus it? So it's 2 charts back. No, the one, yeah, down at the very bottom under B, 66,550 minus.
Then, no, then that's dash. Then you take the 64,553
okay.
and you divide it by this factor,
the dash
the second
confused
step.
me,
Okay.
it's a minus, and that just,
All right. Now, if you look at the next page, okay, which is page 85, what does it say at the top of that page? What does it say at the top of that page? Buddy?
245A program, Plan 3 only.
Plan 3 only. Go ahead.
Methodology to determine the down payment. P&I plus MIP.
MIP. So now, here's what I'm telling you. If you have a Plan 3, which 98% are going to be, you can skip the first pages I taught you, a couple pages, and you can go right down to step 4 at the bottom of the page, and you'll see the one difference. With step 4, you don't have to do A and B and then take the lower of them. It will always work out by taking acquisition costs times 97%. Does everybody follow that? In other words, you don't have to work it out as a 203 and then this and then compare and take the lower. You automatically go right here. Everybody, we're on the same wavelength? Okay.
you're saying just skip these 3 and just go right to 4.
No, that's not what I said. I said what you can do is when you get to step 4 here, you can skip doing A and B like we did in the other procedure. Okay? If you flip back to page 82. I mean the top of 83. You see where I said you do A and B and you compare them? See where B? It will always be B with a Plan 3. So why go through the heartache? That's basically what I'm saying. Okay, are we all on the same wavelength? All right, if you're on the same wavelength, you can skip 86 and 87, and we'll pull these charts too, because that's nothing more than a rehash for the methodology for doing all 5 plans, okay, together. You should be on page 88 now. I'm just saying it's a rehash. We'll just be repeating ourselves, all right? Now, if you look at page 88, well, what do you know? Here's our old problem again. All right, I want you to add number 5 at the bottom. There's no 5. Just write seller pays no closing cost. Now, the problem should be fairly familiar to you all at this stage. The difference that you will see is in number 4, it says FHA. By the way, does everybody understand today that there is a half-point differential in FHA for 245s versus 203? Okay, all right, I found somebody yesterday who didn't. All right, with the FHA, I'm going to ask you 2 questions here. Now, you're not going to actually do them, but we're going to go over the answers. The first one I'm going to say is he's eligible, I'm in 4 now, 5,000 down, 11.5% plus a half point. The second question I'm going to ask you, though, is a little harder. It's going to be eligible minimum down payment required. And I'm going to ask you to work this problem out and get the minimum down payment. So if you will turn your pages, you will see the answer. Now, in the answer sheet, the top one, which I have on the bottom in this flip chart, which really isn't important, since $5,000 is much more, not a whole bunch more, only by $150 as it turns out, since it's more than the minimum down payment required, you simply subtract that from sales price and you have your loan amount. That's the answer. Okay, that's a gimme. But B is a little bit different. I ask you to determine the minimum down payment. Okay? So the first thing you have to do is get acquisition costs, okay, which is $66,500. Then, do you see, Grace, we go automatically, since this is a Plan 3, we automatically go into taking 97% and then dividing by the GPM factor. Okay, you follow on here? This is the factor for Plan 3. We divide that out. Do we round up or down? Round down always, right? Next multiple of how much? $50 with FHA. Okay? And we get $60,150. You'll see this throughout the course. You might remember this loan amount. $60,150. And that's the answer. Does anybody have any problem with how we got this? We're going a little bit faster now because I expect that you all have picked up some stuff earlier. You
You don't have to do 5%, it's a straight 5%.
You don't have to do that. Go just right to it. You could do it, but it's always going to work out at this amount, so why go through the trouble? Okay? Bob?
Only on step 3, excuse me.
We're on Plan 3.
Only on Plan 3 can you do that exactly.
Only on Plan 3 can you do that. That's right.
It's a lot
But
easier.
see, that's sure it is. And it's 98% of all the stuff you're going to talk about, as you will see in a couple graphs later, is going to be Plan 3. Any other questions? Okay. Now, once we've done that, if you will turn the page, now that we have the loan amount, we want to figure out the P&I and MIP, don't we? All right. For that, you're simply going to go, you'll notice up here it says, refer to the 245A factor table, which was on page 98, wasn't it? Then we take the P&I, for the P&I in the first year, we multiply the P&I factor times the loan amount. And we're going to do this down here. And for the MIP, the same thing. So notice down here in our example, the loan amount was $60,150, wasn't it? We multiply that by the P&I factor. Where did this factor come from, Mary?
From the table.
Right,
Page.
right. That's right, page 90. But you know where it came from, right?
Yeah.
We multiply that out, and we get 456. Any questions on that? To get the MIP, we take the loan amount, and we go to the factor on table 99, page 99, which for year 1, Plan 3 is 0.4214. You see where we got that? And you simply multiply, and it gives you your MIP amount. Can't use the 416 trick here, can you?
No.
Because it changes every year. All right. Any questions on what we've done? Now look at what I did for you all. Thank you, Mr. Hollinger. Did all this work here, okay, for 1 through 30 years. For what? Well, you have to read the top. FHA 245 Plan 3, yearly P&I, MIP for problem 1. That problem we see, we carry all the way through here. With variation, what does that mean? Minimum down payment. You'll notice the figures from the preceding page. In year 1, it was $456 plus $25, and we got $482 total. Notice something here. There's 2 things I want you to notice. Notice how it goes up 7.5% a year, from year 1 to year 2, year 3, 4, 5. 6 through the 30th year stays constant. Now, a quirk that I picked up when I was doing the course, I don't think a lot of people know, all right? Not that I have some deep insight into this, but I happened to work this out for $60,000. Now, I was off 150. Remember, the loan amount was $60,150, all right? But I'm off a couple pennies. Anyway, I worked it out as a 203. Notice here that the 203 payment comes out to $593. So look at what this shows. Even in the 6th through 30th years, you're still paying more. They're still recapturing some, aren't they? Not a whole bunch, but it's more, isn't it? It's about $60 more a month. Okay. Any questions at all on what we've done here and what this is? Okay. Aha. Now, if you'll turn the page, this only took me about 3 weeks to do. Now, this should be familiar to you. What does this remind you of? Anybody? Does anybody recognize part of this from this morning? Please. Okay. This is the same chart that we had this morning, isn't it? Okay. Let's look at what this says and how important this chart really is. And the following one, which is even more important. It says, FHA 245 Plan 3, what a difference an increase in interest rates make. Remember how we went from 8% to 10, for example, to 14%? Okay? Does everybody remember? All right, if you don't, it's in the book. You can follow if you have trouble seeing the edges here of the chart. You notice this morning we talked about conventional, FHA, and VA, didn't we? Now we're going to take the same problem, problem 1, and we're going to add the 245 problem into it. Okay? You'll see here I got carried away. I put a $60,000 loan here, and it says minimum down payment. In your books, make that $60,150. It was a lousy $150 difference. My head flew off. I don't know why I went through all the trouble for a lousy $150 difference. I know why I did it, so we could do apples to apples.
Can we put that over on the 245 side?
Yeah, see where it says minimum down payment?
Yeah.
Just make a
Not
little
on
note that minimum down payment really was $60,150, the loan amount. Okay. Now, there's something very interesting here. Do you all remember how to interpret, okay, the numbers from this morning? Remember how I asked you at 8% grace, at 8% for conventional, did they qualify?
Yes.
Okay, they did. Did they qualify at 10%?
No.
No, because of
Debts.
the debt ratio. Everybody, we're on the same wavelength here? All right, I want to go over one little exercise to show you something. Now, let's take a look here. I want you to notice in the FHA number 2 formula. Do you remember how we were, let's see here. Do you remember how we were comparing in FHA number 2, 742 became the total available for family support? Do you notice how we were comparing that to 500, weren't we? Did they qualify, Terry, at 742? Huh?
Yes.
They did, okay. Did they qualify at 655?
Yes.
Okay, did they qualify at 588?
Yes.
What about at 478? No. At 478, we lost them, didn't we? Okay, now, let's take the same problem and go over to an FHA, the same problem, with the 60,000 loan amount for the same type of formula, FHA number 2. Okay, does he qualify at 843?
Yes.
Sure he does. Okay, this is 245 now. Does he qualify at 781?
Yes.
Does he qualify at 726?
Yes.
Okay, and this one here was 628 when it was done. Does he qualify at 628 at 14%? Now, compare 628 with 478. What can you infer from this? We lost them, didn't we, under a regular FHA, but now he qualifies under a 245 with no problem. Everybody follow what we're talking about here? Is there any question? The next one, if you'll turn over your page, and that's how to interpret this one. This is an extremely complicated chart. Okay? And what I want you to do, you can focus on the chart for a while. What I want you to do, we're playing a little role acting here. All right? Look at the top of the chart. This is something, if you think of this in terms of ratios, and because the interest rates are higher now, this is something that's very valuable you can use with your prospects. Now, let's look at what this says, because it is a little complicated. It says 245A program, monthly P&I, MIP, for plans 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can see that going from left to right, can't you? Using problem 1, variation 1. What is variation 1? Nothing more than working out the minimum down payment. Now, notice it says on the left-hand column, sales price. The sales price is constant, isn't it? Okay, 65,000 all the way across. Then, notice the down payments going across. Let's only talk about the significance and the relationship between plans 1, 2, and 3. Let's not worry about plan 4 and 5. What is the first thing that you notice, Ann, if you're looking at the down payments? What is the thing that strikes you?
That it's less for one?
Less for 1 and very heavy for plan 3, isn't it? What does that have to tell you? Here, 98% of all the stuff that's being written today is plan 3, and yet it's the one with the highest down payment now. If you add closing costs and prepaids on there, what has it got to tell you?
A lot of people
It's
can't
got to
do
tell you a lot of people can't qualify.
Qualified.
What does it also tell you? You can infer that when you're talking to your clients up front, your prospects, not your clients, when you're talking to your prospects up front, that you got to ask them, how much money do you have to work with today? If a guy doesn't have $8,000 or $9,000 today, you got a problem. You can't talk to him, except under Plan 1, and we're going to see why that isn't that good in a minute. All right, now, next line has the loan amounts. You can see the difference, obvious difference. And then I inserted in here, so you all can compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. You can compare the difference between the 245, okay? You can compare the difference between the 245 and the 203. Does everybody see that? Okay? Now, you'll notice that I have the P&I at 11, and then I have it at 11.5%. Why do you think I did that?
MIP?
Hmm?
For MIP.
No, because there's a half-point differential, right?
Okay.
Isn't there a half-point differential?
Between FHA and FHA 245.
Right.
That's right. Does everybody understand what's does everybody understand what's happening here? Why I put that on? Okay. Because we did the problem at 11.5, didn't we? But if it was a normal 203, it would be done at 11%, wouldn't it?
Right.
So you have two ways here. You can compare apples to oranges, or you can do apples to apples if you want. You have it both ways here. Now, let's do a little bit of role playing. Let's look at year 1, just P&I figures. What is the P&I year 1 for plan 3, buddy?
482.25?
That's the total,
Right.
just the P&I.
Oh, just the P&I. All right, 573.23.
Okay. No, no,
What, is that the one, Plan
No,
3?
no, year 1, plan 3, first year P&I.
Year 1. Oh, I beg your pardon.
That's right.
607.06. Is that it?
No.
Right
Okay.
here?
Wait, no, plan 3.
Oh, Plan 3,
Plan 3,
year 1.
year 1.
Put on those glasses, buddy.
Okay,
That's
480.
456, yeah, 480 is the total,
Yeah,
and 456
456
is the P&I.
Right.
Okay, Grace, let me ask you something. If I was coming as a client and I had enough money and I wanted the lowest payment, and I came to you and said, well, wait a minute, I heard that Plan 1 is the lowest P&I, what would you tell me?
I'd tell you Plan 3 was.
Okay, and what would it be in numbers? What is the difference? Because I really don't know, Grace. You work these things out for me.
Well, from the chart right here
Mhm.
that you have on the P&I, it's about $120 difference.
It's about $120 difference. There's something else you can notice here. Notice that the P&I in Plan 1, year 1, is 577. That's almost the same as the 203, isn't it? Do you follow what we're saying here? Plan 1 doesn't do a hell of a lot for you, does it? As far as lowering your monthly. And the down payment is almost the same as the 203. So you're not really saving a lot of money. Notice here in Plan 3, year 1, notice how it increases all the way down until 6th through the 30th year, it's 655, the P&I. Does everybody follow that? Notice also at the very bottom of the page that it increases in year 5, that's the maximum year it increases in, and it goes to 64,530. That's a pretty heavy increase over the original loan amount, isn't it, Mary? What was the original loan amount in Plan 3?
60,000.
60,150, wasn't it? And here we have it going to 64,530. Okay? Is everybody on with me here? Can you see how you can compare these plans? You can use these with your prospects? Does everybody know how to interpret these? And it gives you a certain ratio, even though the interest rates are different. Any questions?
So you would use the one that, according to what best suits your particular client. In other words, somebody has a bigger down payment or less, and he
can flow into one or the other. Your problem here is, though, Plan 3, the down payment, which is the lower monthly one, the one everyone wants, right, requires a lot of money, and you have Plan 1, which has the lower down payment, has a high monthly. It's almost the same as the 203. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we had a plan that combined Plan 1 and 3? Okay, we'll see that later when we get to the 245B. All right, let's take a 2-minute break right now, okay? And